But I would say out of the 3 exam boards, by the way, Cambridge is the toughest in terms
Oh,
of,
really?
yeah, depth in-depth questions. They want a lot of detail from you in order to get that particular 1 or 2 marks. This is like the classic example.
Yeah.
Like mitochondria. What is the function of mitochondria? You cannot say powerhouse
Powerhouse
of the
of the cell.
cell.
Okay.
You will not get the So I'm actually better at maths than biology in A levels. But
Really?
yeah, only at the final results I didn't get an A star for maths.
Hmm.
Peptidoglycan is the name of the cell wall bacteria has, and it's very easy to just
Hmm.
think by peptidoglycan and say, okay, I will memorize this blindly and I will move on with my studies. But you will never memorize it
Hmm.
properly. You'll be like, what?
Pep.
What? Pep?
Yeah.
Pep? What?
Hi, Miss Bay. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How's you?
I'm really good today. And so let me just explain how we first met. So I was talking to my friend who takes A-level biology, and I was just talking to him like, how should do you have any suggestions who I could bring on a podcast? And he's like, this is there's some really good YouTubers for biology, and he gave me your name, and I was like. I checked out a couple of your videos and I was like, this is quite interesting. So I reached out to you by email, and the next day you replied, and now we're here. So it's a great pleasure. My friend recommended you, and I'm sure he got an A in A-level biology. So I'm sure.
That's great to hear.
So
Yeah,
that's how we're here now.
glad to be on the show.
Right. So I'm just gonna start directly, and I want to ask first of all, what is your academic background? Did you always study biology? Did you always teach biology? What did you do in university? All of that stuff.
So in university, I did a bachelor in science in biology. It was pure biology and nothing else. Yep. And but I already had a scholarship. I was on a teaching scholarship, so teaching was always on my mind when I was learning. And then when I finished my degree, I came back and I started teaching.
Oh, where did you go to university, by the way? In which country?
I went to the University of York in United Kingdom, and I'm from Malaysia.
Oh. Oh, that's really nice. So you got a fully funded scholarship, or was it like partial?
Only my tuition fees was covered by my sponsor. Yeah, and I had to pay for the rest of the expenses.
So in Malaysia, is it like an A-level system, or is it like does Malaysia have their own education system?
We have a lot of choice here actually. You can choose from A levels. We have something called Form 6, which is like sixth form, but
Yeah.
it's a complete different syllabus. It's government syllabus. It's called STPM. There's
Mhm.
IB here. There's
Oh,
Australian
there's IB.
matriculation here. So there's like plenty of pathways you can take after your Form 5, which is the
Oh,
government.
that's really cool. So did you do the
Yeah.
local one? Did you do the Malaysia's education system?
So I did A levels as well after my
Oh, you
Form
did
5.
A-levels.
Yeah, yeah.
What was your result?
I got 2 A stars and 1 A.
Okay, so obviously, I think I saw that one coming. That was pretty. That
I
was
had
pretty
to. I
obvious.
had to get like a scholarship and stuff.
So what were your A-level subjects?
I did bio, maths, and chemistry.
Bio, maths, and chemistry. And how did your interest in bio come along? Like, where did it start from? Because the thing with a lot of bio students I see, they want to become doctors, and it's mainly because their family has a lot of doctors in it, or their family is somehow related to biology. So was it similar for you? Was it like, did you
Yeah.
start from your parents where were the doctors or something like that?
Yeah, so my mom also teaches biology. I never
really?
thought I would, but here I am following her footsteps. Yeah, and my dad, he's from an island, which is like a small island in Malaysia, and we always went
Mhm.
back, and we always had an interest in nature growing up. He would introduce us to like species of fish, crabs, environmental issues affecting the island. So it's a subject close to my heart, I think.
So how did you start teaching it? Did you always have in mind that you want to teach A-level biology, or did that just happen spontaneously?
Well, the scholarship that I got was actually with the college I was teaching at. So it had to be A-level biology because it offered A-level biology mostly. And it had to be
Okay.
biology because I liked it. It was my favorite subject, so I chose it for university.
So you became a teacher. Did you plan on becoming a teacher? That was my question.
Yeah, for sure. It was always the plan.
Really? So was it not medical, like becoming a doctor or something like that?
No, I don't want to go through 5 years of med school, man. You're insane. Look at the COVID pandemic.
That's something that scares a lot of med students. Like 5 years of medicine.
No, it's just the beginning. 5 years the beginning, and then there's like the entire lifestyle of being a doctor. You grow up so different from everyone else, and
and you know, it takes so long for you to become an actual doctor as well. Like it takes years, decades actually.
And if you want to specialize, and there's another 3 years, and you have to do your practice. Yes, it's a lot.
And why did you exactly like decide to teach A-level maths? You could have taught, IGCSE maths. You could have taught IB maths.
Bio?
Oh, sorry, not maths. I mean bio. You could have taught IGCSE biology. You could have taught IB biology. If there's a biology in IB, I'm not really sure. But you could have taught any other course. But why? There is. So why A-level?
My scholarship kind of made me teach A-level biology.
So can you give a bit of detail on how?
So the scholarship that was given to me was by my current college that I was studying at that time. And they offered only A-level biology, American degree transfer program, or Australian matriculation. So actually, I have taught A-level biology and Australian matriculation for a while. We didn't have enough. Yeah, they already had an American degree transfer program teacher. So that's where I got
So you went to the other one?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I also took A-level I also took A-level biology as a student, so it just made sense.
And how has the journey been, teaching A-level biology for how many years now, by the way?
I taught it for about 5.5 years. I am no longer teaching A-level biology. I'm only doing some
we will
YouTube.
come to that in the later as well.
So, journey as a bio lecturer, it's deemed a lecturing position here, by the way, but it's a teaching position, same old. It's been fun, you have an audience and you do stand-up comedy every week. I see my students when I see my boyfriend at the time, now husband. It's fun. You get to meet a lot of people. You get to see a lot of people grow up. I think A-levels is a very formative time for everyone. It's where you decide your career. So seeing people,
it is a bit stressful.
Yeah, it is stressful, but it's a fun time. You build your values.
Yeah. I was talking about this with a podcast I did with Miss Charlotte a couple of weeks ago from Mindful Maths, and we were just talking about, how important it is for teachers to be fun, to have, an element of humor when they're teaching, because if they just start teaching and the student won't enjoy, because all he's doing is learning. But like when you add an element of fun to it, you can do anything. You can do quizzes, you can do anything, that would seem fun to the student. The student starts taking interest in the subject and starts improving in it, and you will see a lot of improvement towards the end of the year when compared to like plainly teaching. So have you noticed, like, is there a sequence with that?
Yeah, for sure. Humor is a really big tool you can use to improve learning, but also I think it's really important to be yourself. I think a lot of teachers, they tend to want to keep up this professional or very serious image, and I think it has its place, but especially with older students, about 16 to 18-year-olds, I think they just want to see teachers be their true self and share their life with them and be relevant, and being relevant will also equal having some humor.
Agree, yes.
That I think that really helps in the learning
Another
journey.
great point you said is like when a student can connect to their teacher, like they can experience like, oh, my teacher went this and I'm going through the exact same thing. They can have like the element of connecting with their teachers, which makes the whole process of understanding stuff and asking for help much more easier when you're connected with your teacher.
Yes, less intimidating for sure.
Yeah, and it takes the pressure of that. Oh, this is my teacher, this is my elder. Like, I can't ask for help. It'll be embarrassing. All of that stuff. You can feel free to ask help whenever you want.
Yep, for sure.
And you said that you don't teach any longer, but rather you just post on YouTube. So, what started your journey on YouTube in the first place?
So, my friends at ET Physics were posting online over the pandemic. And I was also making videos, but I was making videos for my own students at the point of time, so it wasn't released to the public. But after the pandemic, I saw how well ET Physics was doing and how many people helped, and I'm like, why not? And put like all the chapters, all the videos up on YouTube in one go. So
So you recorded all of them at once?
I recorded them over the pandemic, so I only uploaded all of them at once after the pandemic.
Okay, that makes sense.
I should have scheduled and did like one video a
Yeah.
day to build traffic or whatever, but I really couldn't be bothered.
No,
So,
but there's no
yeah.
need for traffic. Your channel has done pretty well now.
It's alright. Thanks.
And how has your journey been as a... Would you call yourself a YouTuber or would you call yourself a teacher still?
I don't know. I'm conflicted about the term YouTuber. I haven't posted in about a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, we will come to that as well later on in the video.
Yeah, but I'm still in education, in more of an administrative managerial role in a different institution. And
Can you elaborate more on that? Like, what do you mean by administrative?
so I do everything but teach now. I've been doing event coordination, some
Oh, really?
accounting, social media, marketing, and this is for an early childhood institution that I really enjoy. I've been learning a lot on the role and learning to expand my horizons, understanding business, the business aspect of education a bit more as well. Really privileged.
And how has your journey been? Like, you know, when from the moment you started uploading on YouTube till your last video, how was your journey? Like, did you notice any benefits that YouTube gave you that, you know, you would have not have gotten otherwise? And just how has your journey been?
I think the most rewarding part about uploading about YouTube is the amount of comments you get, amount of thanks you get that are written, and you can go back
Yeah.
and reread if you need some motivation.
It must feel nice, right? You
day.
know, on my
Yeah.
channel I got a really nice comment a couple of days ago, and I sort of keep looking at it. It's like, wow, I helped this guy, and you know, I helped him improve something he, you know, would not have been able to improve on before. So it's like a really rewarding part of it. Like, you know, you're helping someone, and you just feel good about it, about
Yeah.
yourself as well.
And
afterwards.
honestly, I didn't expect to be able to help anyone per se. I just wanted to upload something for the sake of uploading it and seeing how
Oh,
it will
really?
go and how it will do. And it ended up helping students in places I wouldn't even imagine. A lot in Pakistan, actually. A lot of Malaysians.
Really?
Yeah. Majority of my viewers are from Pakistan.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
I don't have no idea why.
Maybe apparently they lack a good set of biology teachers or something like that.
I don't know, but
You know, YouTube is an amazing place to, you know, sometimes you're not really, you know, you don't understand the topic. You can just go on YouTube and search like for it, and you're gonna find it. And I'm sure a lot of A-level students who, you know, struggled with biology found your videos to be the same, just searching the topic name, and then you're the first one who pops up. And that's the way my friends found you as well. So
nice.
it's really miraculous how it works its ways.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Also, you mentioned you've been inactive on YouTube for 1.5 years approximately. Is there a reason that you've not been able to upload for that long?
So actually, so in maybe last year or so, no, last year, yes, last year, beginning of last year, I got married. I moved to a new place. I moved jobs, and also I was struggling.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Struggling with my health a little bit. In 2020, actually, during the pandemic, while I was making these videos, I got diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS in short. And yeah, it has taken a toll on me. I'm working through it, showing myself a lot of grace and self-care. And yeah, depending on my family and friends a bit more.
Right. And do you have any plans on returning to YouTube?
I always make plans, but they don't work out because life, you know.
Really?
So maybe, I mean, I'm planning, but I don't know if it'll work out yet.
No, it
see.
should work out. You have a big audience that are waiting for your comeback.
I have no idea how big or small it is, but you know, I'll make videos when I feel better and I feel like it.
That's great. And do you have an insight on what your next videos are going to be about?
I think if I would upload new ones, I would probably revamp some of the videos that I really hate, that I'm not happy with up
That
there.
you made in a rush, essentially.
Or maybe they're not relevant anymore, or maybe I said something wrong. But also, I think maybe past year questions, which the challenging ones.
One thing that
need to
you
be
can
solved.
do is topical past paper questions.
Yeah.
I think that would help students a lot.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a
Yeah.
lot of work to sift through.
Oh, of course. it's a
Figure
lot of
out
work.
which ones are challenging. So yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it, I guess.
You obviously teach Cambridge A-Level biology. Have you noticed a difference between exam boards? For example, Edexcel or OCR. Is there a difference in exam boards, or as a lot of the syllabuses are, they're pretty much the same? And if there is there a big difference in the Cambridge compared to the other ones?
So based on what I know and looking at the past year papers, Edexcel is modular, so it's a very different exam system compared to Cambridge. Cambridge has 5 papers. Paper 1, 2, 3 is for AS, and paper 4 and 5 is for A2 or A levels. But Edexcel doesn't work that way. They have, I think, 4 or 6 modules, and if you fail that paper, you can retake that particular paper without taking the rest. Whereas
Cambridge you can't.
yeah, in Cambridge,
You have to
can't.
give all of them together again.
Yes, if you're not happy for AS results, you sit
Yeah.
for paper 1, 2, and 3 all over again. You
Yeah,
can't.
that's happening with me. That's happening with me for physics.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so I have to retake all of them again in October, November. So it's not looking good, but we're gonna push through it and we're gonna get the grade that we want. So I did. The thing is, I don't know. I think it was MCQs that brought my whole grade down. So because of that, I have to retake. That's the thing I like about Edexcel. Like you can get an A, and perhaps a D, but then you don't have to retake everything again. You can keep your 2 A's and you can just retake the one you got a D in and change it to an A or a B, whatever it is.
Yes.
That's something really good about Edexcel, and
Mhm.
that Cambridge does not have.
And OCR is quite similar to Cambridge, but I would say out of the 3 exam boards, by the way, Cambridge is the toughest in terms
Oh,
of
really?
in-depth questions. They want a lot of detail from you in order to get that particular 1 or 2 marks. Very specific terminology. Edexcel has more application questions though, so I guess it works for people with different kind of brains and thinking
Yeah.
different way. Yeah.
Can you give an example on like Cambridge, and like the specific terminology they ask for?
Okay, so for example,
Yeah.
this is like the classic example,
Yeah.
like mitochondria. What is the function of mitochondria? You cannot say powerhouse of the cell.
Okay.
You will not get the You probably will in O levels though. In A levels,
Yeah.
suddenly they want you to write produces energy in the form of ATP.
ATP.
let's-
And what if you don't write that? Or
let's
you
say you
rephrase
write-
it a bit?
Let's say you write create energy. You are going to lose that
Hmm.
mark because you didn't say ATP. And energy
ATP.
cannot be created or destroyed, right? And therefore,
Right.
created mitochondria creates energy is technically a wrong
Is a very
sentence.
bad statement.
And it's a
yes.
reject. Yeah, and it's a reject. It's rejected in mark scheme. So if you write create,
What about biology
so it's very
MCQs?
specific.
Yeah.
I think very similar to physics and chemistry MCQs. If you do enough of past papers, you will see that there's a trend and language in
Yeah.
terms of asking questions, and you get
Hmm.
used to them, and you'll be able to figure out their little tricks over time.
But they are a bit hard. MCQs are usually the hardest paper
Yes.
out of the 3.
yeah, but with
Is
enough
it the one that
practice,
students
it will
lose the
feel
most marks in?
natural. Depends on what kind of student, I guess. So someone who does enough past papers.
Really?
Yeah, so depends on if you do enough past year papers, and even if you don't completely memorize everything,
Hmm.
but if you do enough past year papers, people tend to do very well in paper 1. and paper 2 maybe not so much because they don't memorize things, they practice, and
Right.
they have problem with
Is this a
language.
common misconception or is it not? Because I've heard that biology is 80% memorizing rather than understanding, whereas chemistry is the complete opposite, where chemistry you have to understand, you cannot just memorize. Is that true?
I mean,
To an extent.
in comparison to chemistry, fine, but
Yeah.
I feel like even though we say it's 20% understanding, the recent
Mhm.
past year papers have tested understanding more and make you rely more on your understanding of the complete subject. And
Hmm.
honestly, if you are just blindly memorizing without a process flow or understanding how one thing
Of
leads to
course.
another, then you are not memorizing it right, and you don't understand it either.
Hmm.
And then you're neither memorizing nor
Yeah.
understanding without
This
understanding.
is
You know what I'm
something I
saying?
learned the hard way. Yeah, this is something I learned the hard way in chemistry because I thought A level was just, I can memorize and I could get an A. And then Mock 1 came around and oh my god, it was a horrible experience because
Yes.
as much as like I could answer the basic definitions, when they asked something that was, I did not see in the textbook or past papers before, I was just staring at the paper like completely like I've never seen this before. What is this? And that's the key moments where you have to know that this isn't just about memorizing, but rather like you have to understand the whole concept. And the textbook is probably the best way to do that. And
Yes.
another way, my friend who got 4 A stars in A level, 4 A stars is,
Cool.
by the way, is amazing. And he was telling me for chemistry, like you have to do extra effort to if you really want that A, you have to do so much extra effort. So for example, if in the textbook they're talking about something like a chemical reaction or an experiment, you have to go onto YouTube yourself. No one's gonna help you. You're gonna go onto YouTube yourself and search of that experiment and learn from it. And if you just rely without visualizing things or seeing them practically, it's going to be very hard for you. So I think there's an element of that in biology as well, but biology there's a lot of definitions, if I'm not wrong. There's a lot of memorization.
There are a lot of specific terms that you use, but
Hmm.
it's kind of like learning a different language almost. You need to know how to use certain vocabulary, right? So you not only need to memorize the word per se, but also learn how to use it, which is one common mistake a lot of students have. So they remember it in point form, right? But they are unable to make it into meaningful sentences that make logical sense, which is also if English is your second language, that this might be an obstacle. Which is why reading the textbook, as you said, is really helpful to some people, because you are reading these words in context of a full sentence and you're seeing how it's
Exactly.
being used. Like for example, if you use a Gen Z lingo, like a word like yeet, I can't say like I'm a yeet or like I
Yeah.
am a yeet right now. You can't say things
Yeah.
like that. You have to say
Of
I'm a
course, you can't be
yeet, or like
informal. You
I'm
have to
gonna
be
yeet
formal.
right now. I'm yeeting right now.
Yeah.
Like it's the same word, but the proper usage must be there.
Yes.
For biology especially, language is very important here.
What do you think is the most common mistake as a lot of students make when it comes to biology?
This is really annoying, but reading the question properly, especially in paper
Really?
2.
Yeah, this is something that every student does, I think. Like, in a rush, they
Yeah.
don't read the question carefully.
Oh.
And majority of the time, the question gives you a hint as well.
Yes.
So, for example, in maths, for example, let's say quadratic equation, you get 2 answers, right? In the question itself, it will tell you which route not to take. So, for example, it can
Yes.
say x is greater than 0. So, whichever is less than 0, you're going to cancel it out.
Exactly.
And I think reading the question is so important, reading it carefully.
Yes. So in biology, a lot of students also tend to read the questions before they read the little paragraph on top, and then or they read the questions out of order, and they do the questions out of order as well. But oftentimes A, even though it's not maths, A actually leads into B and B leads into C. There is a big story going on, and the paragraph up there is like before A, and it's telling you a story, and to understand it, you must read it in sequence, and try and attempt it in sequence if you can, because there is a story there.
Is it like dependent questions? So, for example, you solve A, and then from A, you're gonna have to derive B. From B, you're gonna have to do C.
See, in bio,
It's like using parts.
in bio, it's kind of like, it's tricky because you think it's not dependent, but it It
Okay.
usually is somewhat related in that way. Hmm.
Speaking of biology, where do you think biology ranks in the top four sciences? So, for example, physics, chemistry, maths, and biology. Where does biology rank in that in terms of you and in terms of, just likability, hardness, and all of that?
Okay, so likability first, right? Rankings for
For
different
you, it's going to be
categories.
different.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to say bio is first
Yeah.
because I teach bio. It is my favorite subject after all.
Very subjective.
But people may say differently. But this is for me, it's personal.
Yeah,
Okay?
for example, for me, it's maths. All day long, it's maths.
So I'm actually better at maths than biology in A levels. But
Really?
yeah, only at the final results I didn't get an A star for maths.
Hmm.
But all this while, like, I've been better at maths than biology. In fact, biology is like my worst science subject in O
Really?
levels equivalent. We call it SPM here.
And you still became a biology
I
teacher.
still loved
So
it. It doesn't matter.
it's the way it works. Yeah.
And so biology, then maths, and physics maybe, especially in O levels. And I didn't take physics for A levels. Okay, I heard physics for A levels is really hard. And
It's not that hard. Depends on the,
Maybe
again.
you're
It depends
smart,
on
though.
what you're taking. No, but like if you're good at maths, I think chemistry.
Yes.
Physics becomes very easy for you.
I think you need to be able to visualize and understand the
Yes,
concepts
visualizing
as well.
forces
It's
is
like
so
you
important.
don't know which formula to use. You're not sure
Yep.
what's happening. They are velocity equals 0 at the turning points. They're like basic rules you have to follow. Anyways, but the last one's chemistry. I had a horrible chemistry teacher back in high school. Hated it since. I did well because I had to work on it myself. But
Yeah.
did not like chemistry.
Looks like we're kind of on the same boat as well, because I don't like chemistry as well. But I've got a good teacher this year, so hopefully it goes well.
Yes.
But
I had a
you
good
can never
A-level
be too
teacher,
sure.
no doubt. A-level teacher, amazing. But I still had that feeling, some things
Yeah.
don't go away.
I feel like chemistry is one of those subjects that you depend a lot on your teacher and how someone explains it to you.
Correct.
Whereas, so for example, for maths, you can obviously, a teacher can, even though if a teacher may not be that good, you can always go home and start practicing questions, and eventually you're going to understand the topic while you're practicing questions. But for chemistry, if you don't understand the concept, it's going to become impossible for you to do any paper questions as well. So it's very important to have a good teacher who can explain the concept to you properly.
Yes, that's right. But if you can't find a good teacher, I guess there's YouTube nowadays.
Yeah, that's the best part about it.
Yay, technology.
And what are some other common mistakes that a lot of biology students make? Because I think that's things biology students would, future biology students would look to improve on the most, not to repeat the same mistakes as the people who did it before.
So we talked about memorizing and not blindly memorizing, but understanding is a huge factor as well. I would say it's 50-50, goes hand in hand. Understand it, and you'll be able to memorize it. We kind of talked about what did we say just now? Oh, reading the question properly, and realizing that don't skip the big paragraph. It has valuable information and hints.
Yep.
And try to do the questions in sequence because it usually tells a story. But I want to add a little bit on to that as well. Do not forget to read the action verb in the beginning of the question, discuss.
So explain. Oh, okay. So similar
state.
to maths, right?
Yeah, it's very different.
Right.
Or physics, it means it wants different things from you. If they ask you to state the pattern of a graph, maybe they just want you to describe the graph, or describe or state. Right? It's just no explanations. This increases because this increases, or as this increases. No, maybe a data code. Here's some evidence that it increases. But they didn't ask you to explain, so you don't need to. But if they said describe and explain, now you need to do both. So a lot of times students just do describe and not do explain. Or even worse, do explain without describing, which is really confusing. But yeah.
How important is time management in biology? Because in other subjects it's very important, but is it very important in biology as well? Do students usually run out of time?
Yes, so it's really important A-level biology, especially no, for all papers really, because you are really rushing against the clock. For paper 1, you want to be able to check your answers again, so that's why you're rushing for times, even though you might have another 10 minutes remaining. Paper 2 and paper 4, which are the structured questions, they require you to write in a lot of detail, so if you have extra time, I'm guessing that you didn't write enough, so you should be like writing till the last moment, kind of, but also not
Out of curiosity, what is the highest mark question in biology, like paper 2?
it could be a 4-mark question on diseases, yeah, or a 4-mark question on describing, explaining, or commenting on a graph.
4 marks is not that much though.
Yeah, no, not that much. In paper
So
4,
that's good.
in paper 4, it could be 7 or 8 marks though, and they would.
Oh really?
Then you just
Paper
write
4 is
whatever
what
you
exactly?
have in there.
What is paper 4?
Paper 4 is also structured questions, but in A2.
Oh yeah, okay. So there's no MCQs in A-level, similar to A-level physics, right?
Correct.
Cambridge
So
for
same
Cambridge.
as physics, yeah.
And what are your tips for practical? Because I'm pretty sure you guys have. Do you have like a lab practical for A-level biology, or is it an alternative to practical?
It's a lab practical. I have
Okay.
not heard about alternatives at the moment. But yes, it's a paper 3 practical. However, you are assessed based on the exam paper you submit, which is quite funny, even though they make you do a practical in real life
Yeah.
and get results from it. But what they're looking for is really how you present
How
the
you can
results,
answer. Yeah.
how you are answering the questions, how you are doing your experiment, how are you drawing these cell diagrams. These are all skills you can learn. It's actually no memory work. It's just rules.
Are there any calculations in it?
Some. Very
Like
minor.
formulas and stuff like that, or okay. So biology, there's not much mathematics involved.
In A2 there is more. In paper 3 AS level, there is very few.
Oh really? Okay. So not much mathematical skills needed. So what are the experiments like in paper 3?
There's a lot of food tests actually. There's a lot of
Food test.
testing for glucose, testing for starch, testing for protein, testing for different concentrations, testing for the unknown solution, a lot of food tests. There is also a lot of microscope questions, and there's always a graph question. Microscope
Yeah,
and
same
drawing.
with physics. There's
and
always
always a graph
a
question.
graph. Yeah.
And also in chemistry, always a graph question.
Chemistry for what? For Cambridge? Okay,
For
so I
Cambridge
take
AS,
Edexo.
yeah.
I take Edexo chemistry, so that is one benefit
I
for me.
see. Good for you.
Our school did something very smart, that they only gave us Cambridge and biology for Cambridge. Sorry, physics and biology for Cambridge, and the rest is Edexo, because they deem Edexo to be a bit easier than Cambridge, so they allowed us to take Edexo instead.
Especially maths. So yes.
Yeah. We take Edexo math, so it's much easier for us in terms of that.
Good for you. Actually, it's common practice in the UK. They have different boards for different subjects quite often.
Really?
In Malaysia, we only have Cambridge to choose from, I think.
Oh, really? You don't? You guys
so
don't
it's
have
either
Edexo
all
or
Edexcel
Oxford?
or all Edexcel or all Cambridge, but majority, like 95% of the colleges only offer Cambridge A-levels.
And is there a reason for that, or do they just prefer Cambridge?
I think it's the glamorous name.
Okay,
Cambridge.
that makes sense.
Now I
yeah,
can
Cambridge,
charge you
because of the
extra.
university. Yeah, makes sense. What is the best thing a student in A-level biology can do for themselves to get a high grade?
I think a lot of teachers would say this, but also I'm going to say it again. Do more past year papers.
Okay, no, except past paper questions, because past paper questions is like you can apply that to any subject. So
True.
Aside from past paper questions.
So this is biology specific. What's the best thing?
Yeah, of course, biology specific.
This is how I studied biology. I relate it to everything I do, because biology is everywhere, right? There's trees everywhere. There's humans everywhere. You're breathing, right? You are, I don't know, you are consuming food and your body is generating this energy in the form of ATP. So whatever I do, whatever I see, I relate it to a concept I've already learned in class. So applying those concepts in real life really helps with understanding, with memorizing, and also it's just recall. You periodically recall these things, and so it sticks in your head better, especially with A2.
I was about to come to that. Like, I was about to ask, what are the best study techniques when it comes to biology? And have you ever heard of spaced repetition?
Yes, I have heard of spaced repetition. So it's kind of similar, but maybe more structured in a sense of just relating it to real life, you're timing yourself. However, it's great, it works. However, I just want to say, practically, there's a lot of information in A-level biology. A lot.
In A-level biology, yeah. So you have to consume a lot of information.
And you have to recall a lot of information if you're doing spaced
repetition.
repetition.
So that's essentially what spaced repetition does, right? It's basically flashcards. Have you heard of Anki?
Yes, it's an app.
So
right?
I think Anki is a very good platform if you want to do, like, if you want to remember a lot of stuff in biology, you can use Anki. You can divide your biology topics into subtopics and then just make flashcards. And eventually what happens with spaced repetition is, like, you do it one day, you do it the next day, you leave for example 2 days, you do it again, and you just increase the space between, and eventually, like, the stuff you learn you'll memorize it instantly, and then but because you're recalling it every single time. So I think one way for biology students to study is by using a lot of spaced repetition, flashcards, whatever they prefer, but they have to start recalling stuff.
I think more than the flashcards and recalling, though, you can use those tools, but you also may use those tools wrong. First of all,
exactly,
those flashcards, you can't just be pasting stuff from your textbook and putting it in.
Yeah,
you have to make those flashcards yourself.
Yes.
Some people swear by just making handmade notes, and if you have time, that is not too close to the exam, and making their own flashcards by hand and doing that themselves.
But the problem with handmade notes that I see is that it's kind of passive, if you know what I mean. Is like your brain goes on autopilot and you're just copy pasting whatever is there.
Oh well, you're doing the same when you're doing Control C, Control V on your computer, right?
Yeah, no.
So it depends on how
flashcards, the
you
best
do
way
it.
to make. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think
the best way to
I'm
make
trying to
flashcards
say.
is to understand the topic, and then in your own words you write the question and answer. In your own words is so
that's
important.
also dangerous because you need to know
Really?
how to use the specific terminology in bio. If you write it in your own words, you will not get the mark. So
No, by own words I mean paraphrasing what's written in the textbook.
no, you can't. Like not all
Really?
time. Sometimes maybe, but not all the time. So
how would you recommend they do it then?
I feel like even if you would go flashcards, whatever technique you use, different techniques work for different people, right? What's important is you are not doing it blindly, I feel. So I never made flashcards in my life, okay? But I took handheld notes in class in real time because that's the only way I could stay awake and not fall asleep, not blank out.
Yep.
And it was most time effective because I don't need to be in class and then watch a YouTube outside class. That's double the time. Right? I could absorb everything in one session. But what's important is that whatever method you use, which works for different people, what's important is that you make it meaningful to you. In biology, you have to be careful to use certain specific terminologies, but make sure you're not just absorbing this terminology as two random words you don't know, but rather that make meaning out of it. Like, the word peptidoglycan. I don't think
I know.
but it's a cell. It's peptidoglycan is the name of the cell wall bacteria has, and it's very easy to just think about peptidoglycan and say, okay, I will memorize this blindly and I will move on with my studies. But you will never memorize it properly. You'll be like, what? Pep? What? Yeah, but you won't make meaning out of it. But peptidoglycan is actually a substance made out of peptides, amino acid, and glycan, as in carbohydrates. So now that you understand those root words, you go like, oh,
makes sense now.
The cell wall is made out of protein and carbohydrate, and this is called peptidoglycan. And therefore, you make that specific terminology into something meaningful for your brain. And now you understand not just the word, but also you have memorized, internalized what the cell wall is made of.
Makes sense.
So that's why I said if you don't understand it, you won't remember it.
And another question I had personally, this is something I'm just curious about. Why are the names in biology so complicated? Because it's just the weirdest name. Where do these names come from?
Well, most of them come from Latin.
Why can't they just make
Mathematical
something
terms are
very
Latin.
easy? It's just so complicated. I look at a word and it's just so complicated to even pronounce.
If they change the name, then scientists all over the world be confused, right?
No, so
All
why
over
did they keep it in
again.
the first place?
So they it's used all this year, so we continue to be used. But anyways, you can figure it out. It's like learning a new
Language, exactly.
language. Like lysis. Lysis is clearly breaking down, with water, lyse, right? Like hydrolyze.
Makes sense.
A lot of enzymes end with ASE, like catalase, peptidase. And I think the more you immerse yourself in the biology language, the more you hear people talk about it, the more you read your textbook, the more you are learning this new terminology, and it starts to make sense.
Got it.
After a while.
Yeah, it takes time, obviously, with everything. Everything takes time.
I think chemistry is like that too. You're like, what is this
So
SDPDF
so
situation?
the funny story. So when I went from my GCSEs to A-levels, you used to be writing it like 288, the notations, right? Yeah.
Right.
And then as soon as I saw SDP, SP, I don't even remember anymore. SPD, right? SPD notation. SP. 1S2, 1S2, 2S2, stuff like that, right? And I was so confused. Like, all of a sudden, I was learning about quantum shells. I was learning about different stuff. I was like, where was all of this in year 11? Because this is so baffling to me. But then, as like I approached towards the end of the year, that became the easiest topic for me. So it takes time. It does look a bit scary at first, but then as you start doing it, it becomes quite easy. You get used to it, and then you start actually liking it.
Yeah, it becomes like a normal reaction. I think like, this question I know.
That's the thing with a lot of subjects as well. It's like, if you, for example, if you get scared and you make up a mindset that this is really hard and I cannot do this, no matter what you do throughout the whole year, you're not going to be able to do it because you already made up your mindset that this is too hard and I cannot do this. But from the start, if you keep a mindset that, even though this is hard, I'm going to do my best and I'm going to learn it one day. By the time your exams come around, you're going to be like, oh, I finally figured it out. And it's all down to your mindset and how willing you are to learn. And the more you are willing to learn, the easier the subject becomes for you. So it's all down to you and your how you think of the subject.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's what we call a mental barrier, right? You are actually stopping yourself from doing the thing, but actually every single task, even if it's cooking or biology, same thing. It can be broken down to small subtopics, small questions. It's always one task at a time, one small
chart.
task.
Essentially, it's a flow chart.
One question at a time. Don't feel like you need to defeat the whole subject at once. Just take small bites, one step
So
at
it's
a
like
time,
basically like
way forward.
You have whole of chemistry, you have subtopics in chemistry, you have in those subtopics you have more subtopics, and in those subtopics you have smaller subtopics. So it's all down to like, if you cannot do the whole thing, break it down. If you cannot do the smaller thing, break it down even more. Eventually break it down so much that it becomes so simple for you, and then you start doing it, growing it in bigger chunks. So then it becomes really easier for you as well.
Correct. But it all starts with that small chunk. Even if you're really smart, you gotta start with one small
and
chunk.
That one small chunk can be the difference between you getting an A and A star as well, because you never know, that small thing might come in your exam, and if you haven't studied it, you might lose a mark, and because of that one mark, you might your grade might decrease by 1. So it's very important you pay attention to every single thing as well in the textbook. And another thing that you should really be doing is textbook questions. Are there is the biology textbook good?
The biology textbook is a great read. It has plenty of pictures, but the questions are a bit iffy. They're not very they're not past year question styles. The answers are really hard to find online. and their answer scheme is not like the
Hmm.
biology past year paper mark scheme. So I would do them for fun, but I wouldn't
For
depend
edX,
on them
textbook
for
questions are the
past year
best.
papers.
I don't know if you've seen them.
Oh, that's great.
They're really amazing.
I've seen them
they're,
actually.
They're really amazing.
Yeah, they seem to have everything
Yeah,
in
exactly.
one.
So for Cambridge, then you would recommend the students jump straight to topic or past papers then after they've completed a topic.
Yeah, I think that would be the best approach.
But isn't there like a big jump from studying the topic and then past paper questions? Is there something in between they can do?
I think there's not as big of a
Hmm.
jump as it would seem.
Oh, okay.
I think the language used in the past year papers takes some time to get used to, but once you figure it out, it's like a transfer of information. Like you read it, okay, now do it.
Okay.
It's quite similar because biology is a lot
Hmm.
of words, right? A lot of phrasing, a lot of sentences. And what is a textbook? The textbook is
Hmm.
all words. You just need to figure out which words are important,
The
which
keywords
words they want you to
essentially.
write, Yeah.
And what would you say is the
and what they're
and
asking.
what would you say is the best way to do a past paper? So, would you like for someone who's like in biology, would you recommend they look at their textbook and do it and do the past paper at the same time, or just look at the textbook and start without looking at the textbook to start doing the past paper?
That's really tricky because different things work for different people. But this is what I would
Hmm.
personally do. I would understand topic, ditch the textbook, try it, but most importantly, mark it. Like even if I don't know how to do it, it's okay. I'll skip it, but I will compare it to the mark scheme afterwards.
Hmm.
Because in the end, your second textbook is the biology mark scheme.
Yes.
Because the biology textbook can be very lengthy, and that's what I do in my videos as well. I'm actually taking all the important
Hmm.
points out from the textbook and taking a lot of the important points out of the
Yes.
mark scheme and making it available to all. So yeah,
That's really nice. Okay.
whatever you do, check the mark scheme at the end.
Mark scheme at the end, yes. And what happens if you're stuck on a question? How would you like tackle, like for example, if there's a question, as you said, describe what a mitochondria is. Like for example, if a student cannot understand what it is, what's the best way? Should he directly look at the marking scheme, or should he like go in through the textbook and understand the concept? Like how should he tackle that question?
I would go to the mark scheme. The mark scheme is the final authority of your exams. So go to the mark scheme, take a look, don't copy,
Hmm.
understand it, close the mark scheme, write it write it separately without looking at it. So you treat the mark
Yeah.
scheme as a second
So what I
textbook.
would do personally in that scenario is like I would look at the mark scheme, but I wouldn't write it down immediately. I might come after like 2 or 3 hours, and then I will write it just to see if what I've looked at the mark scheme, do I still remember it?
That
Yeah.
will work too.
And do you have some final words of advice for students in year 13 because they're in their final years, such as me? Then we're going to be going to university. So, are there any words of advices, life advice, or anything that you might want to give to year 13 students?
I think a lot of year 13 students or A-level students really put a lot of pressure on
Hmm.
themselves, thinking that this is it. Like if I fail, I die, and I'm not gonna go to university and I'll be a failure
Yeah.
forever. And that's simply not true, And don't put that much of a pressure on yourself. This is not the be all and end all. Do your best,
Hmm.
do what you can, and move on with life. Some people I know did really badly for A-levels and they did fine in life,
Yeah,
There's a med school
academics
out there
obviously
that
do
will
not
accept you.
define you fully.
Yes, it doesn't define you. It also doesn't doesn't actually direct your entire
Yes.
life.
And God
You
always
have
has a
choices at
plan for
every
you. So
juncture.
if something does not work out, it's gonna end up working out in another way that you might not have expected. So it's like you need to be fully, have faith, and you just be sure that this will work out. If it has to happen, it will. If it doesn't have to happen, then it won't happen. It's just all down to whatever's best for me.
Right.
And one final piece of advice for all biology students. So no, year 13, just GCSE biology, A-level biology, whatever they are. Any word of advice for biology students?
So I think for our future biology students going from IGCSE to A-levels, there's a huge, just know, even for other subjects, there's a huge gap
You mean jump?
and you will struggle. Like, huge jump
Yeah,
in
100%,
skill
yes.
and knowledge in expectations of the mark scheme, even though it's by the same board, exam board, I mean, it's going to be a huge jump, and you need to take it easy that first semester.
You
and really
you don't need
brace
to get
yourself.
panicked. You don't have like, oh my god, this is so
Yeah.
hard. You're
It
gonna
is
understand
supposed to be
eventually.
hard. You're not
Yeah.
dumb. It is
Yes.
hard.
And you're gonna start
I think-
understanding eventually.
Exactly. And honestly, for A-level students going to university, being very nervous about university, I feel like A-levels was harder than my first year, some parts of my first year of university. Seriously, it's yeah. So this is as hard as it gets for
Yes, for
this
sure.
2 years, I think. So chillax, don't take it too seriously. I mean, like, take it seriously,
But don't put
don't
pressure on
give yourself too much pressure. Yeah, exactly. And also, whatever for biology students, especially if you're going into a biology related major, things are gonna look different. There is also going to be a big jump between maybe not your first year, but between A levels and your second year, and third year and so forth. And it's going to change your entire way you study. So whatever study patterns that are wrong or like problematic all this while, but has worked for you, it is going to come out during
Yes,
A levels,
100%.
and you better fix it.
That's what
before you
that's
get
very
into
interesting you said that,
university.
because I say that in my videos as well, that before like you enter A levels, pick up a study technique that will actually work for A levels. So for example, you cannot use the same techniques you use in IGCSEs, because IGCSEs is comparatively much more easier than A levels. So it might have worked in IGCSEs, but when you come to A levels, it's not a joke. You cannot exactly use the same technique. You cannot study 2 months before the exams and get away with it. So it's
Yeah,
not IGCSE. You have to study from day one and use the correct study techniques.
Correct. And in university, there are no past year papers. So if you are over reliant on past year papers, that's going to show in the years
Yeah.
to come as well. So pick up something that is healthy, that works
Definitely.
for you, and it's not problematic.
And not
long
that
term.
much time consuming, because time is very important in A levels.
Time's really important. So I know students who work really hard, and bless them, really, really hard, handwrite detailed handwritten notes, but they get so stressed out, trying to complete their beautiful, perfect notes. And they will rewrite them if it's not perfect. But this is problematic.
Because
yes, it's pretty.
It's pretty,
yes,
but
you're
it's
learning,
not gonna
but it's
help.
really
Yeah,
slow.
exactly. 100% agree
Yeah.
with you there.
So my notebook in school was really messy. Only I could understand it, but that's the point. I can understand it, and it worked. It's really fast. And it was taken during class, so that worked out for
That's
me.
amazing,
So I think
If it works for you, then
think,
you don't have to listen to
people-
anyone else.
yeah,
Just make sure that it's not wasting
Yeah.
a lot of your time, and it's it's good for you. It's not
Pick some-
stressing you out. It's not wasting your time, and it's working.
for sure.
Anyways, thank you, Ms. Bay. Thank you very much for coming onto the
Thank you.
podcast. This was a lovely discussion, and I found out a lot about biology that I would have never thought about knowing, because
Would you take biology if you could choose it over
No.
again?
the
That's
reason
fine.
is because
I'm
I'm not
offended.
that interested in biology. Even chemistry, I picked it because of my the profession I want to go in, but even chemistry, I wouldn't have taken it. My preferred subjects would have been physics, maths, and either not computer science, sorry, IT. That would have been my preferred subjects, but now I'm stuck with physics, chemistry, and maths, so I have to deal with that.
My fourth subject was psychology.
Really?
And I dropped it. I didn't even make it to AS. I went like, this is not for me. I can't do
Yeah.
this. And I'm not interested anymore, so I'm dropping
I
it.
thought about
So you do you.
dropping chemistry, but then my dad convinced me not to.
You need it if you
Yeah,
want to do engineering
exactly, so,
or something
yeah.
similar.
That's why I just
Chemistry is
yeah.
one subject that is hard to
yeah,
drop.
that's why I kept it. And
It's
involved
involved in all sciences.
it was very bad at the start because I was struggling so much, but now it's comparatively very better, and then I can actually understand what's going on in it sometimes, because my brain now has the basics of AS level, so I can connect it
Yeah.
to different topics
Mhm.
and visualize it in my brain, so it becomes easier.
Yeah, sometimes it's just that really hard start.
Yeah, it's a
like
very
really
rough
hard first
start.
semester, and then gets easier.
Yeah,
with time.
100%.
So don't give up too early, guys.
Yeah, 100% agree. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. You guys are watching as well. You can check out Miss Bay's channel in the description below. And if you have any other like platforms that you want me to link, please send me. You can send me through wherever we were talking, and I'll link them in leave them in the description below. It was a very lovely conversation to have with you, and just it was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on as well. And I
Thank
hope
you.
I hope to see the content coming out very soon. I'm gonna stay tuned, even though I'm not a biology student. Still gonna check your channel out every once in a while.
I will try my
Yeah,
best.
looking
Okay?
forward to it. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.